The catastrophe in Lismore is widespread. It's the worst flood they've ever had in their history. This one has taken everybody by surprise, not just emergency workers, it's taken the locals by surprise, and it's devastating. Convoy of Hope is a humanitarian organisation. We're global, and the best way to describe Convoy would be probably in two sections. We have a disaster services section, and then the other side of Convoy is all the program activities, and we specialise in women's empowerment, children's feeding, agriculture, and we just work with local churches and organisations to bring community transformation all over the world. Anytime in a disaster, what Convoy normally does, we try to work out what's happening by talking to people on the ground. Floods are difficult because it takes a while to get in. Our response was to bring food and water and non-perishable items straight away, and then quickly make contact with local churches and local civic leaders to find out what the need actually is. And it became apparent very quickly we need to help these people get all of their precious belongings out of their homes and businesses onto the street. It's heart-wrenching. You're throwing things out like it's rubbish, but it's not rubbish. It's their personal belongings. Mental health is a massive issue in the Northern Rivers. The floods came at night time, so that was very scary. It rushed through the city like a river, and so people were hiding in their attic. Well, once the water comes up in your attic, the only way to escape is to swim down through your attic and try and get through your house with the debris and then out of your house for safety. We spoke to a family who had come back to their home for the first time, and they started telling us how traumatic it was. He said, we sent our kids across the road with our neighbours. We climbed up into our attic and the floodwaters came up, and it was obvious it was getting too high and it was dark. And so my wife and I swam down under the house to get out, and I lost her. She said, I found a car floating and I held onto that till daybreak. He found a warehouse and broke into that and climbed into higher rafters. But they didn't know whether their kids were okay because they were across the road. And for 48 hours, they waited to try and find their kids, because you couldn't just walk over and knock on the door. Everyone was floating on roofs, in trees, waiting to be rescued. And so I can't imagine what it would be like to go through 2 sleeps not knowing if my kids were safe or not. It's traumatic. You can tell that it's just below the surface. If you ask someone, are you okay? They say, yeah, we're doing okay. But if you were to ask them a second time, they dissolve into tears. It's horrific. Experts are saying it could take anywhere up from 6 months up to years for people to recover from this. Some of the recovery is getting your house cleaned out completely, sanitised. You've got to do that really well because the mould grows all between the walls. But these people aren't insured. Most people who have been affected by the floods have got no insurance. So now you have to figure out how to afford to rebuild and then put all your personal belongings back in. So Convoy of Hope is going to shift fairly quickly, and the next phase is going to be working with tradies, plumbers, sparkies, builders, cabinet makers, and then we're going to have to get some great discounts and grants from organisations who can give us, whether it's electrical wiring or plumbing needs, gyprock, insulation. We're going to have to start bringing everything back into people's homes. One of our mottos at Convoy is to still be there when everyone else leaves. Not everyone leaves, but we want to be there for a long term, helping the locals rebuild. I've met with a bunch of different pastors in Lismore and also in Byron and Ballina. There's this one church which is called Centre Church right in the CBD of Lismore. They've had everything destroyed. We were in there helping them. And then there's another church, an ACC church, pastored by Tony Meston, and their place has been destroyed. Well, the Centre Church have got a school that's attached to their church up in Gunnellabar, up the top of the hill. And so they're just ringing pastors and saying, none of us have got buildings to be able to hold worship services. Do you all want to come up here and we'll all just do services here? And so they're just sharing around and they're sharing the platform and doing different things together. And it's beautiful to watch. The church is active. It's definitely active in the community. I think there's several ways that people can support Convoy of Hope. I think firstly you can pray. It's amazing what happens when people pray. Some people can give financially, and that is a huge help because it means that we can use the money to actually supply the need that is urgent today. If you are an owner of a white goods store, or if you have a bedding store or any kitchen supplies, anything that you could imagine, if you look around your own home and think about all that's got to go back into a home, and if you're in an organisation that owns any of those types of things, then helping us with either donations from there or discounts from there, we will use the cash that we get in order to purchase those things for people. And then the last area to support the Convoy of Hope would be any tradies, any people good on the tools that you want to volunteer time. We will be standing up some rural initiative teams. So we've got mud out teams that take everything out. There will be some trade teams that bring everything back in. And so that'll be the next several months that we'll be doing that. The Bible says that God knows our needs. Sometimes we don't know what to pray, but the Bible says in Romans that He speaks to us in our heart with groanings and things that are hard to put into words. So some practical things to pray about is the actual residents. Mental health is huge. Pray that people will turn to God in these situations and that they'll reach out to Him. Pray that people they'd be strong enough in these situations and that they would look to Him. Pray for people for provision, for protection, for their heart. Pray that people's hearts and minds will be kept safe. In situations like this, people often want to blame. They blame the government, they blame insurance, they blame God, and it's just helping people to reach out to God in these times of need.